Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and I'm sharing a new layout today for Papermaze. And I have a new collection to work with this month, and I've got Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Country Harvest collection, and I absolutely love it. All the colours, the patterns, everything about it. And it's full of pumpkins as well, which is perfect for me because we love going to pumpkin farms. It's something I do every year, and we've been to several already this year. So I've got loads of photos to scrap, and I thought this collection was perfect. So I've had an idea for a layout in my head for a couple of weeks now. I was just waiting for Vanessa to get the collection at Papermaze so I could get it down on paper. But it's effectively getting strips of paper and folding them over on themselves. I've seen it done by a couple of people now, and it's a really great way of introducing some kind of layers and dimension to your page. So I'm going to do that today. I'm using several pattern papers, so I flipped through all the papers in the collection trying to decide which ones I wanted to use. I've got the branding strips here so I can tell you which ones I've gone for. So starting with that leaf one in the centre, the first one I cut, that is Changing Seasons. Then the orange checkered one is Just Thankful. The one on the right of that is Happy Harvest. And then coming over to the left of the centre, the green and white kind of checkered pattern is the B-side of Journal Elements. Then the next two strips you see there, the orange and white kind of tartan gingham pattern and that turquoise with the butterflies, those are the same paper, they are Autumn Glory, and I've used both sides of that. And then the last one I've just placed over on the right there, that is called Give Thanks. And I've cut them all at varying widths and lengths, and I'm going to apply some double-sided tape to one end and then fold them up on themselves, again at varying lengths, and some of them I fold over in their entirety and then end up trimming them down once I know how long I want them. But my idea is to kind of have them going diagonally across the page, and then I'm going to stitch across the top of them, sort of making like a banner out of them. So it just takes me some time to fold these over and decide on the lengths I want them. And I do change my mind and have to trim a couple down. I end up trimming off the tape and then having to re-stick them. But it was really fun to do, and it didn't take long, and I really love how this layout came out in the end. So I've just drawn a pencil mark diagonally across my layout to kind of help me line up these pieces so that they are in a straight line. This is where I was saying I trimmed a couple down and then had to re-stick them. When it comes to sticking them onto my background, I'm just going to apply a bit of double-sided tape into the kind of centre of them. You'll notice on that one I do it at the top and then peel it back off. I do it on the centre because I want to be able to move them about. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to add some mixed media underneath or not, so I thought by sticking the centres down it would now enable me to lift them up and add some ink under if I wanted to. So I'm just going to take some time to get these all stuck down in place using that pencil line as my guide. And as you can see, I'm varying the heights that I put them at. I don't want them all to be in an exact straight line. I want a bit of variation there for a bit more interest on the page. And I decide that I need an extra one over on the right there just to balance it out on a shorter, thicker one. So I use the Journal Elements page again just to bring some green over onto that side of the page. And then I've got my photo printed off. I wasn't sure if I was going to actually use that photo or not at this point. I need to have a fiddle with where I want to put it, but I've got those papers stuck in place now with my stitching. I've used black thread and just done a straight running stitch all the way along. And rather than pushing the loose threads to the back and kind of sticking them down like I normally would, I've pulled them to the front and I'm just tying them in a bow. Just thought that thread would add a little bit more texture and detail to the page. And I'm just applying a little bit of glossy accents to the centre of the bow, kind of where I've knotted it, so that they don't come undone at a later date. And I'm going to work with my photo and just flattening down those banner pieces for now. It takes me a while to decide if I want my photo at an angle to match the banners, or whether I want to have it straight in line with the page. And I was really struggling to decide, so rather than make a decision, I've moved on to embellishing, as you do. So I've got most of the embellishments for this collection. I think I'm only missing the sticker book at the moment because it hasn't arrived up at Papermaze. I'm making this layout in the middle of October, so by the time this video goes live, it should be available in the store. It should have arrived. But I'm going through at the moment the two kind of ephemera packs. So I've got one called Harvest Bits and the other one is the Bits and Pieces pack. And I'm just pulling out some bits from each of those that I think would work with my layout. So loads of pumpkins and crates of pumpkins. I've pulled out a little ticket that's orange, you can see it up on the left there, that's got pumpkin written on it. That actually gets moved to the right in the middle, in a minute. And then the little kind of wooden locket you can see hanging at the top there, that gets moved over to the left. But I'm just having a play, trying to see what would work and what I like. I'm going to build a little cluster down the bottom corner of the page there as well, just to kind of bring the layout down a bit more. It was feeling a bit bare. And I'm going to layer those up with foam to give it a lot of dimension, because those folded over kind of banner strips have got loads of dimension. So I wanted to bring the dimension down to the bottom as well. And I'm just using a mixture of craft foam and foam pads for that. And I've added a little kind of tab as well that says Happy Harvest, and I'm going to use that to write the date on at the end. So I'm loving how this is coming together at the moment. I want to get my photo sorted and stuck in place before I embellish any more, because I want to see what areas I've got where I need to embellish. And I've decided to go with this photo. Initially I thought I might change it for a square photo, but I quite like the banners are kind of rectangle shaped, so I've stuck with a 3x4 photo. I've mounted it onto white cardstock first to give it a bit of separation, because a lot of these papers are quite busy, so I didn't want my photo to get lost. So I've added some white cardstock, then I've added a layer of the B side of the Journal Elements paper, that lovely kind of checkered green, and I'm also going to bring in a second layer, and that is the Give Thanks paper I use. And just fiddling about, having a play, I've decided I'm going to have my photo lined up with the banners, so it'll be at an angle on the page. And now I'm just making sure I've got my title on, so I know that where I stick my photo, I've got enough room for my title. And I'm using one of the foam stickers that says Harvest, and I'll bring in some other alphas at the end to make it Pumpkin Harvest. But it's quite a large element, that title piece, so I wanted to get that on the page first so that I knew I had room for my photo and my title, and I wasn't going to be left at the end with no room and trying to squeeze everything on. So I've just added that second layer to my photo, and I'm going to get it stuck in place now. I'm popping another one of the little tabs to the right of it. It's got an orange kind of section at the top that says Pumpkin Time. So I've stuck that up there for a little bit more interest. And now I've decided that I do want to have some mixed media, and I'm just trying to decide which ink to use. So I pulled out two distress inks. I've got Evergreen Bough and Peacock Feathers, and in the end I decided Peacock Feathers was a slightly better match. It was more of a turquoise shade, and I just felt like it went better with this collection. So I'm using a blending brush, and I'm just adding some ink just softly to the background. I'm not going mad, I'm not adding any water or anything. I just wanted kind of a little bit of a glow of colour coming out from underneath all the pieces. So I'm just using that brush in a circular motion, and this is what I meant by just sticking the centre of those strips down so I could lift them up if I wanted to. Smart move, because this would have been a nightmare trying to do this had I have stuck that whole length down to the background. So I do all the bottoms of those kind of banner pieces and that cluster down on the bottom right corner there. I don't think I do the top at this stage, but then later on I do decide to come back in and do that as well. It just wasn't looking right, it looked a bit bare, whereas everything else had colour underneath it and the top of my banner didn't. So now I'm happy with that, I'm going to start committing and getting things stuck in place. A couple of those banners I've overlapped. Most of them are lined up sort of straight, but some of them I have overlapped just for a bit more interest really. And at this point I decide I want to remove my title. you can see I've got that little kind of locket piece there and the pumpkin ticket on the right. I'm going to have those overlapping the stitching, so I've decided to add another row of stitching on top and get those stitched in place, just for a bit of continuity really, and so you could still see the stitching along the top. I didn't want to cover the stitching up as such. So apologies for the top of my machine here. I'm just adding another row of stitching. I'm just tying those loose threads off. I was going to do a second bow and then thought it might look a bit too messy, so I've just knotted it a couple of times and then trimmed it down, so I've still got the one bow either side of my banner. And then I'm going to get that harvest foam sticker stuck in place. I'm using glossy accents for that, I don't want that to fall off. I did consider stitching through that as well, but I was worried that where it's quite foamy and dimensional, I didn't want it to kind of pinch it and kind of, it would look like almost like it's folding in on itself, if that makes sense, where the stitching would be so tight across the centre. So I stuck that over my stitching, and then I'm just getting that cluster in the bottom right stuck down. I've already put foam behind it also, it's just a case of adding some double-sided tape behind that to get that in place. And now I'm just going to build on that cluster and add some embellishments to the top. So this is the sticker sheet for the collection. You get the sticker book and a sticker sheet. This comes within, if you buy the collection pack, it gets all the papers in, you get the sticker sheet in with that. I think I might buy myself an additional one because you can buy it separately as well. I think I may need some more of those. Yeah, you do get one in the collection pack, but you can also buy it additionally as well if you either want another one or don't buy the whole pack of papers. So now I'm just working my way around getting things stuck in place. I've brought in a tab over on the left there that says all about the pumpkins, and I've stuck that up on some foam. I've got a couple of pumpkins underneath that I've layered again on foam. Over on the right, I've added another of those foam stickers on that last banner piece that says pumpkin time, and I'm adding a few of the foam hearts as well. It just helps to disperse the colour around a bit. So I've added a few of those up to the top, one above my harvest title, and then I've added a heart down the bottom, but I've used one of the flat ones from the, it's either the bits and pieces or the harvest bits pack. And now I get a little helper come in to help me, and this is where it all goes a bit wrong. So I've decided to add some ink to the top. My little boy is a bit heavy-handed with my brushes, as you can see. I've now got a couple of dark splodges of ink up the top. I tried to blend it in a bit more, it didn't work, but you know what, it's another memory. I will always remember that he helped me with this page. He's also trying to stick foam down to my layout here. I'm still trying to work on that ink blending at the top. It's not overly noticeable. It's noticeable to me because I know it's there, but you know what, I live with it. It's not the end of the world. He enjoyed himself and I enjoyed having him sit with me, so yeah, never mind. We're now going to be brave and add some splatters. Yes, I'm letting the 4-year-old splatter on my layout, gosh help me. I've watered down some white gesso for this. I find it sits on top of the pattern papers much better than acrylic paint. I find acrylic paint soaks into the papers and kind of takes on the colours underneath, whereas a gesso sits nicely on the top. So we have added loads of splatters with some white gesso. And I call it time at this point because he's getting carried away. So just giving you a close-up of the splatters there. I do take a break and come back to it alone when I've got some adult time. And I decided to add a frame around the outside edge of the layout. I felt like it was just looking a bit unfinished and it needed something dark around the edge just to give it a bit of kind of definition and more of a finished look. So I'm trimming off from the top and bottom, it's 1/4 inch. From the two sides I couldn't quite do 1/4 because I've tied those bows off at the edges there and I've put that glossy accent on the centre of the bow. So I couldn't cut through that and it would have cut all my stitching loose. So it's not quite 1/4 inch on the two sides, but it's not far off. and then I've distressed all the edges with edge distressor, and I'm going to use one of the pattern papers for a border, and I'm using the Changing Seasons paper, which has got all those lovely autumn leaves on it. And I'm just going to add a little bit of double-sided tape to the outside edges, and then I'm going to run this through my sewing machine and add a black stitch around the edge, just kind of to tie in with the stitching I've got across the top of my banner. I'm just going to draw a pencil line in now so that I can stitch straight, because believe it or not, my stitching is not that good. Even following the line of the edge of a layout, I still can't stitch straight. So I always do a pencil line first. And now I'm just going to finish off the layout with some sequins. I've got 2 mixes from Spiegelmum Scraps. I've got Rusted Fence and Terracotta Tea. And I'm pulling out the turquoise from Terracotta Tea to work with the colours in the collection and the ink I've used. And then the Rusted Fence mix is like proper autumnal colours. You've got oranges, brown, sort of rusty oranges. So I'm pulling out loads of those, and I'm just scattering them around the page and getting them stuck down with glossy accents, and then that will be me finished. No, I lie, it's not me finished. I need to finish off my title. So I've pulled out some alphabet stickers from Pink Fresh Studio. I think these are the Keeping It Real collection. Got this from Papermaze as well. And I'm just using the kind of turquoisey colours to make the word pumpkin. And there's 2 different shades of kind of turquoise or teal in those alphas, so I've used a mix of both because I didn't have enough letters, but actually you can't really tell that there's 2 different shades, so that works quite well. And I've just spelled the word pumpkin up the top there. And now that really is me done. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this layout and it's given you some inspiration in using this collection. It's quite a lot of pattern papers to get on one page for me, so quite impressed with myself. I will leave a link in the description box below to the Papermaze store and to this collection in particular, in case you want to have a browse or a buy. I don't suspect this collection will hang around long. There's not been a massive amount of autumn collections this year, and this is by far, I think, in my opinion anyway, the most beautiful of them all. So yeah, I'll pop a link down in the description box to the collection in the store for you in case you want to go over and have a look. But thanks very much for joining me, and I shall see you next time.